Mhm. Okay, we are live, I believe. Hello. Thank you for clicking on. Chris is going to be joining at 9 o'clock. Thank you for clicking on. And we will get started here because I've got some things I want to go through before we get Chris up here with us. And we will be doing that so in just a few moments. Um, I'm back on. I'm on StreamYard, so none of the openings or anything like that. We've got American Doofus channel up there is the only thing we can put up. And again, thank you for clicking. Thank you for clicking on. I'll tell you what, let's do. Okay, thank you. Somebody sent me a message and somebody sent me a text. I can't answer that at the moment, but I will here in just a few seconds. This is an AC 130J. It is a massive plane. It is also a massive a massive war machine in and of itself. Okay, it is. I'm not. I had the nickname earlier, and suddenly it's just gone from my head. But the reason I show it is because Camp Atterbury will be hosting an AC-130J Ghost Rider. That's what it was, for aerial gunnery training. The training will take place between 1200 and 1800 on 28 December. This is strictly training and will focus on the 105 millimeter howitzer and the 30 millimeter minigun. But all of the guns will be used, but the focus is going to be on the 105 millimeter howitzer, the 105, and the 30 millimeter minigun. So if you see this beast making 45-degree banks around Camp Atterbury and unleashing controlled fury, do not be alarmed, as it is your service members honing their skills to protect our freedom. Now, you might say, okay, so what? Actually, I'm about 30 miles from, here's Camp Atterbury, here's Indianapolis. And, I'm not in downtown Indianapolis, but nonetheless, I'm about 30 miles from Camp Atterbury, and that's 8 days away. So I don't have that reliable I know if Lori Arnold was still here with me, we would be heading down there on the 28th. And I may try to get down there. Again, the time was between noon and 6 p.m., I believe, 1200 and 1800 hours. So that'd be daylight. And depending on the weather, I may try to get down there and get some footage of that gunship in training. So that's how we kick our night off. And let's get back to the Twitter scroll, the X scroll, the X files. California Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kuznalski urges Secretary of the State to explore every legal option to remove Trump from California's 2024 ballot. Mentioned this in last night's segment I did that on the breaking news that Trump had been removed from the Republican primary party ballot in California, thanks to a lawsuit filed by Republicans. So, the Democrats really had nothing to do with it, but, sometimes facts get in the way of wanting whatever. Anyway, this next one comes from the Tennessee Holler. Before I get away from the Trump thing, and we're not going to be talking about this all night. So before I get away from it, I said last night that it set precedent and other states would possibly be trying to do the same thing. And also, Ron DeSantis today was speaking. I think it was in Iowa. And no, it wasn't. It was on the. It was on one of the blonde Republican women, right wing woman. One of her Kellyanne. I don't know who it was. It was one of those kind of people. Anyway, nothing against them. All due respect. Um, um, and she asked, are you going to follow Vivek Ramaswamy and not be on the ballot in Colorado? And he just said no. He didn't say no. It's a travesty. He just said simply no. Next question. Let's move on. So read into that what you may. The next is from the Tennessee Holler. Man follows God, woman follows man. Not everybody has to have a vote, is the quote. And it's from Jason Whitlock at the Conservative Speaking Engagement Turning Point USA. And a lot of things came out of there. He is a self-proclaimed hardcore MAGA, and he doesn't like the idea of women being able to vote. and well, never mind. I'm not even going to mention the irony. You can see it for yourself. All right, that's really negative towards women. I want to do something that might help some women and possibly children. Bear with me for a second because I'm gonna hopefully. There we go. I'm going to get this out of the bookmarks so that it won't restart or shut me down before we get to hear the whole thing. And if this helps one person, well, it's more than worth it. So, as the directions say, pay attention and listen to the end.
So listen. I don't care if you agree with a lot of my videos or not, or if you pay attention to them, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But I definitely want you to pay attention to this one. My daughter works late. She gets off at 3 in the morning in a decent sized city. We live in the middle of nowhere out in the country. So we're not accustomed to seeing stuff like this. But like I said, she works in a big city. She gets off at 3 in the morning, drives an hour and 15 minutes to get home. This is the third morning in a row I found one of these on her car in the exact same spot, back passenger door. I didn't know what it was. I just kept cutting it off. This morning when I found it, I went in there and I asked her, I said, what's the deal with the zip tie being on your back passenger handle every morning? For the past 3 mornings, I've cut it off. She said, Dad, I don't know what in the world you're talking about. She said, I didn't know there was a zip tie on there. I said, yeah, there's a zip tie. So I was talking to my brother just a few minutes ago, and I told him, I said, man, 3 mornings in a row, I found a zip tie on I ain't going to say her name, but my daughter's back passenger door handle, black zip tie. It's loose, but it's on there. And he works in law enforcement. He's been in law enforcement his whole life. And you could tell when I mentioned that, he got extremely silent. And he said, what'd you just say? And I told him, and he was like, listen, man, cut that off right now. I said, I have been cutting them off. He was like, sex traffickers and people that basically steal women, vulnerable women, put them on a car somewhere where it's not easily noticeable for them, but other people who actually do the stealing knows exactly what that means. So basically what this is, you all, is this is a tag. And this alerts anyone who's part of the organization, I'll call it, of sex trafficking or kidnappers, abductors. Let them know that that person is vulnerable, they are by themselves, and they're an easy target. So if you've got teenage kids, girls that are out late at night, that are driving, check their car every morning. Look for a black zip tie or anything that stands out and immediately remove it. Looks like my daughter is a target, so she will be prepared. I promise you that. I've been telling y'all to keep your six covered. It's real.
Okay. Again, sharing that because I've heard it more than once, and obviously it's something that I hope all the ladies, all the everybody, but primarily the women that are out traveling by yourselves, please always keep that in mind. Look at your vehicle for anything that you might find different, that you might be a target of something that you're totally not aware could even happen. And it's happening all over the place. A lot more than I ever thought until I started digging in. All right. Our next story here, Chris, is going to be coming up soon. If you're just joining us, thank you for clicking on. General mobilization has begun in the Houthi-controlled north of Yemen to send fighters to the Gaza Strip, the political bureau of the Ansar Allah movement said. Again, how exactly the units will get into Gaza, since it's completely blocked by Israel and Egypt, has not yet been determined. And Chris and I talked about that. Well, Chris and I talked about that the moment that the other countries said they were getting fighters ready to send into Gaza. It's like, how are you going to get them there? We had a story just a couple of seconds ago about watching for abductors. This story, okay. This comes from Muckraker. All right. Wait a minute. Okay. Gates reposted it. This comes from Muckraker. Contractors caught moving miners through Valley International Airport at 3 a.m. And I just want to.
Yeah, what are you guys doing?
All right. Just going to play a little bit of this.
Where are you guys moving these kids to? Do you guys have paperwork for these kids?
Don't worry about it.
You know, a third of these kids go missing.
Sorry.
You guys know anything about this?
It happens every day.
About these guys moving these kids to the airport?
Yeah.
Straight up.
It's America.
Welcome to America.
Yeah, what are you guys doing?
Okay. Again, you want to see the I think you get the gist, but for those of you that want to see who I'm talking to. You want to hear the rest of this, you find it at muckraker.com on X-File. Okay. Highly recommended. And Muckraker's the same source that has the Chinese pathway once they get into Central America, the pathway into Mexico, and eventually to the border, and specific places to stop, hotels and restaurants where they're safe houses, I guess you might consider that. I don't know. Anyway, Archbishop Vigano says the World Economic Forum is threatening the heads of government of the 20 most industrialized nations in the world to carry out the Great Reset. It is a global coup d'etat against which it is essential that people rise up. Those who govern nations shall all become either enslaved or blackmailed by this international mafia. And then, again, this is Catholic Archbishop Vigano. We don't tell you what to think or how to think. We just give you things to think about. FBI arrests 17 Jewish rabbis in New Jersey charged with trafficking human organs, baby parts, and money laundering. This is one we need to hear.
These were arrests on a massive scale. Amongst those taken into custody by the FBI were city mayors, politicians, and religious leaders. The authorities needed buses to cope with the sheer scale of the operation.
New Jersey's corruption problem is one of the worst, if not the worst, in the nation. Corruption is not only pervasive, it has become ingrained in New Jersey's political culture.
It's thought that religious charities controlled by prominent rabbis were used to launder cash. The arrests were part of a 10-year operation that uncovered money laundering on an international scale.
Money laundering, not to mention,
as well as corruption and the sale of human organs in the US, Switzerland, and Israel.
The list of people we arrested sounds like it should be the roster for a meeting of community leaders. But sadly, they weren't meeting in a boardroom this morning. They were in the FBI booking room.
Prosecutors say one rabbi was dealing in human kidneys for transplant for a decade.
Okay, that's enough. I believe that there's a problem of compatibility between Islamic culture, and the values and rights of our civilization. I played a part about this last night from the latest Italian prime minister, recently elected. And you might ask yourself, okay, what would be significant differences between that she may not agree with in the Muslim culture, Islamic culture? Women are impure and compared to dogs, donkeys, and other animals.
आप जैसे आलिम फाजिल से हम लोग समझना चाहते थे कि औरतें हिंदुस्तान की मस्जिद में क्यों नहीं आकर नमाज पढ़ सकती हैं?
मस्जिद में औरतें मेकअप करके आए और मर्द को खुशबू लगे तो मर्द की नमाज नहीं होती, नियतें खराब हो जाती। इस मारे औरतों को मना किया गया मस्जिद में आने से। औरतें घरों में इबादत किया करें।
औरत का माना ही पर्दा है और औरत को पर्दे के अंदर ही रहना चाहिए। यहाँ तक कि अगर औरत मर्द के सामने से नमाज की हालत में निकल भी जाए तो नमाज टूट जाएगी,
फिर से पढ़नी पड़ेगी।
उससे पढ़नी पड़ेगी। अगर कोई काला कुत्ता निकल जाए तब भी नमाज टूट जाएगी, अगर गधा निकल जाए तब भी नमाज टूट जाएगी।
काला कुत्ता बताया आपने, गधा
और औरत।
हमारे बराबर अगर औरत खड़ी है तो हमारा कभी उसकी तरफ दिल माइल ना हो जाए। शैतान तो कभी भी बहका सकता है।
मर्द का दिल बड़ा खतरनाक होता है, बहुत ज्यादा खतरनाक होता है। जब मर्द को धक्कम धुक्की होती है तो मर्द के जिसमें गर्माहट आ ही जाती है।
औरतें सामने न आए और औरतें बाजार में न जाए और औरतें गलत कपड़ा पहन के सामने न निकले तो ये देख।
Yeah, lost the volume. Those who look and harass will decrease. There are morality police in numerous Islamic countries. And just as a second point, why the female prime minister of Italy is not happy with the Islamic culture. Quote, you're a Hindu, kafir. You can't have water from the same water cooler. I was prohibited from drinking water from the library water cooler because I'm a Hindu. Not that long ago, we were at that point here in our country, and you'd like to think we'd moved forward enough, but we haven't progressed. We haven't progressed as a country anywhere, or as a people, or yeah. We ought to be evolving. We ought to be moving towards the idea that there's one race, the human race, and we've got one planet, and it's this planet, and let's fix it. And instead of exploiting each other, exploiting everything. Anyway, a couple other headlines real quick, and then we'll get Chris up here. Xi, the leader of China, straight up told Biden that China is going to take over Taiwan. a report says, and it could end in war. So, yeah, that's always excellent to hear. Sarcasm. U.S. deploys a B-1B bomber after North Korean ICBM launch. Talked about this the other night, that North Korea had launched a solid fuel ICBM and was in the air for 70 minutes before splashing down in the Sea of Japan, and that it's estimated it could hit anywhere in the United States. United States didn't like that. U.S. B-1B bomber took part in a joint aerial exercise. South Korea, the United States, and Japan held over waters around the Korean Peninsula, and that is earlier today, in a show of force after North Korea's launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile. So let me pop back over here, and Chris is indeed here. We'll get him up here. Chris, how are you? Can you hold on? There we go. Chris, how are you? Can you hear me?
How about yourself, Barry? Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you, man.
Can you hear me?
I can.
All right, good.
I can.
Make sure the audience, I want to make sure the audience can hear me too.
Okay, I think we're good. The Houthis, they're raising troops to send into Gaza. How would they get them there?
Barry, hang on for a sec, Barry. I'm gonna change locations because you keep breaking up. I don't know why you keep breaking up. But let me change my location.
All right. All right. Chris will be back on in just a minute. He's switching locations. Get a better signal, hopefully. And again, thank you all for clicking on. Most of you watch at your convenience, and I appreciate that. Those watching it live, watching it live, thank you very much. Feel free to join the chat. We're on StreamYard tonight, so we are only on YouTube. So join the YouTube chat if you'd like. Lori Arnold's in here. Not going away. Guy Bassett. Thank you all. Moi. So,
all right, Barry, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, great. I had to change locations. Sometimes I don't know. It's kind of funny sometimes.
Okay,
but it seems like I have a perception here. All right, we're good to go. I
played a clip of the female prime minister of Italy expressing that Islamic culture and Western culture do not meld. And I played a couple of examples of why she might have felt that way. And we've talked about it on here before. But once again, can you kind of talk about how females were treated in Afghanistan pre-U.S. occupation and during U.S. occupation and then after?
Okay, I can't really talk about pre invasion Afghanistan. I can really talk about during the invasion and how we pretty much occupied it, and then also I can tell you that the end results, to show you how like our cultures are totally not compatible, right? So is your audience may or may not know, I was a U.S. advisor, right, in the State Department, and I was assigned out of CJSOTF, Combined Joint Special Operations Task Force. I'm assigned to Special Forces Operations Taskman Alphas, and our mission is to train, advise, assist, like the Afghan National Police, Afghan local police, and National Director of Security. So anyway, when we're training, I'm training the Afghan National Police, and one of the things we were tasked to train them on was like domestic violence. Okay, Now, in Islam, in Islam, it's permitted that you're able to slap your wife or discipline her. Okay, unlike in the United States. So if I were to smack my wife in Afghanistan or maybe in Saudi Arabia, or even like United Arab Emirates, anywhere that it's an Islamic country, it's permissible to do that. You can do that. Okay. Unlike here in the United States, if I do that in the United States, then that they'll call the police. A female will call the police, and that individual will be arrested for assault. Well, it doesn't work like that in Islamic countries. Okay.
Mhm.
And we were tasked to train them on domestic on that, and I'm like, that's totally, they're not compatible. Okay, there you have religious and cultural differences, but because we were nation building, they wanted to instill those values into the Afghan population, and the two just don't mix. So when I was training, the police on this, they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, you look at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I know. I really don't need to be teaching you this, right? Because it makes no sense to you all, because you've been groomed a certain way for the longest time, and it's part of your culture, and it's part of your religion. So why am I going to be the one to change that? I shouldn't be doing that, and our government shouldn't be doing that either. So I was tasked to do it. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm not even going to train them on it. So then we also talked about women's rights in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah.
And we you had like these NGOs and of course our government teaching women about women's rights and how important they are, and you should be allowed to go to school and do all the things that Western women are permitted to do, right? So when it all ended and the Taliban ended up taking control again, it was pretty much like we sold them a dream. You see, we sold them a dream
We sold the female
for the
population
simple
of
fact that,
Afghanistan a dream.
yeah, we sold them a dream. Yeah, when you're a female, you have rights and all this other stuff. And then when the Taliban took it back over again, the Taliban's like, no, you don't. You don't have any rights. Well, you have rights, but not the rights that the Western influences or influencers said you have. This is an Islamic
And
country.
the reason I'm bringing that,
We'll rule
yeah,
by law. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah, we'll rule
Ruled
by
by,
Sharia law, right? And this is how things work. Okay,
and
this is how things
yeah,
work.
I wanted to bring this all up because I also played earlier a cut from Turning Point USA, a MAGA rally conference, not a rally, a conference, and one of the speakers said, "Not everybody should have the right to vote," and he was basically saying women shouldn't have the right to vote. So a lot of us, in the United States, forget how easily our rights and freedoms could just be taken away from us.
Right. Well, going back to that whole Afghan scenario,
Yeah.
the whole Afghan
Yeah.
scenario that we just
Yeah.
discussed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just females, going to school after a certain age, Taliban didn't permit. I think they were supposed to. I think UAE had set something up for, I think, like some of the older women to go over there to learn, to get degrees and and Taliban's like, no, you're not going. It's not permitted, and we're not going to let you go. You see.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is, here's the deal: those NGOs, UN, and whoever else was selling them or teaching them about the Western values. You know, you have human rights, all this other stuff. When they pulled out, and you know, when we pulled out, it's like you're going to get these women killed. You don't realize that the stuff that you're teaching them will get them killed. Okay, and that's the reality of it, and people don't see that, but they'll sit there,
Yeah,
it's just they're just not compatible. Okay, a lot of things in Islamic culture and the West are not compatible. They're just not. Okay, and here's
Yeah.
the thing, right? Yeah, we have freedom of speech and all this other stuff, but I've been to numerous countries, well, Islamic countries, Afghanistan, UAE, Qatar, Mali, right? These are all Islamic countries. And you know what? Their crime rates are very, very low. Very low. Okay. You don't have a quarter of the BS that happens in those countries that happens here in the United States. It's very strict, it's very disciplined. Okay. It's very respectful culture. Okay. We're pretty wild here in the United States and in the West. You cannot deny that.
No.
We're pretty wild. All right.
Guilty.
We're not disciplined. We say and do whatever we want. Okay. And Islamic culture, not like that. Okay. It's respectful. You know, women. Just imagine women in the 40s, 30s, 20s. Okay, 19s, 20s, 30s. You know, they're more or less. It's a patriarchal society. You see, and when you have a patriarchal society like these countries, then the female there's going to be a hierarchy. Okay, male, female, child. That's just how it is. There's no man and women are equal. No, not quite. Male, female, child, and that's how it works. And a lot of people here in the United States, oh, men and women are equal. We're equals. Well, not in our society, yes, but not in the Islamic society. They're not. You see.
Yeah,
So
and there are those.
Becomes a matter of.
Go ahead. It just
Then
becomes a matter of.
You know, you listen. The two cultures, they're not compatible. They're incompatible. Period. One shouldn't try to instill its values on the other, and vice versa, because it's not going to work.
There are some in our country that want to take us to a patriarchal society and put women, back in the kitchen and the whole rhetoric there. We need to always guard against those kind of things. Barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen.
For our society's sake, for our society's sake, because that's how we operate in this society. Okay, that's how we operate, and that's the way it's been for some time. But in the Islamic culture and their society, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. So again, I think we need to remember that there are those in our country that want to take us as a society backwards, away from the idea of equality, not only in gender, but in everything. And that leads us into.
You can't take it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can't, like, we're already at a certain point. You can't go backwards. It would just make things even worse.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. But it brings us into to tonight's main topic, which is tribalism. And I'm going to pop this up onto the screen. I just did a Google of tribalism, and we've had examples of tribalism since the beginning of human history. We had the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Ishmael. We've had Native American tribes. We've had tribes in Africa. Tribalism is nothing new, but what tribalism has developed into, especially in our, as of late, in our recent past and in our present day, it's a lot about us versus them mentality, and it's about hatred. It's not, it's not even acceptance. It's totally hatred.
Well, if it's strictly about hatred, then it's not going to work at all. It'd be one thing if women, and they're not going to in this country and in this society, they're not. It's almost like I think, and then the whole feminism thing here in the United States. Okay, feminism plays a very, very big part into why things are the way they are here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like I said, the whole in Islamic culture and society, that's not even an issue. You see,
Mm-hmm.
it's not an issue. You won't hear a female in the Islamic culture ever say like, we're equals. I can do the same thing you can. That doesn't occur. That doesn't exist. Only in our country would you. Well, I can't really say only in our country, but in our country, you will hear that. Okay, and you will see women doing things naturally that men, have been doing over a certain amount of time, like being special operation forces, being like, which is normally a male dominated field, like special operation forces, right? Like Ranger
Mm-hmm.
Regiment or special forces, Green Berets or even
Tank
the Navy
regiment.
SEALs, right? Now they're open. Right, and now they're in infantry, and now they're opening this up to females.
Mm-hmm.
You see, they're
Yeah,
opening these things up to females, and like I said, I have no problem. I have no problem. Hey, if this is what you think you're good at, if you're good at this, then hey, so be it. But I don't see any of these. I don't see any of these other countries doing anything similar to that. Only here in the United States. Okay, only in the United States we're the only ones doing anything like that.
Israel's got a pretty well
To
known.
the best of my knowledge.
Israel's got a pretty well known female tank brigade. That and actually one of the tank one of the tanks and their crew, that's what I was trying to think of, actually repelled some attackers on October 7th, saved some lives. So yeah, it's not going to happen in you're not going to see it in Muslim nations. But the Western, so is that, should we try to, of course we should always try to keep it in the back of our mind, but is that something that's going to lead to the eventual ultimate tribalism of religion versus religion, belief versus belief?
Well, the thing about it is our belief system isn't going to change. Their belief system isn't going to change either. Okay, it's been that way for the longest. If you think it's going to change, you're sadly mistaken. Okay, yes, cultures change. You see, now in Saudi Arabia, in KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, they're kind of like allowing women to drive. They're trying to modernize Saudi Arabia, right? But even with that, women still have their place. Men have their place. You see what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
you will never see like a woman for the most part, um, in politics in Saudi Arabia. I've never seen it. Okay, and even when I was in Afghanistan, I think when uh, we were there, because the government of Afghanistan and what we were trying to do, the nation building thing, trying to make everything inclusive, including women. That was the first time, like, women really were included in that culture. You see, you had women district chiefs of police, things like that. But now, since the Taliban has taken back over, I don't think that's so much. It's not very prevalent. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're pretty much putting women. They're pretty much putting women back to where it was pre invasion or preoccupation of Afghanistan.
And that actually started shortly after
Occupation.
we finally that that
Right.
started
So
shortly
the
after
whole
the occupation ended.
right. So the Taliban is like this. Yeah. Women are like, well, we have our rights, and Taliban is like this. You better take that. You better take that BS somewhere else. No, you don't. No, you don't. And like I
Yeah.
said, like when I'm in the UAE, it's you would never hear a female saying something like that. Never. Even when I was in Qatar, I didn't hear anything like that. Even when I was in Mali, I didn't hear anything like that. Nothing. These, like I said, these are patriarchal societies. Okay. The men, like I said, have their place, and the women have their place. That's it. And Islam and the culture dictate that. It's that simple.
And it's kind of reversed in the West. Instead of being man,
Yes.
women, and child, it's children, women, and men.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I guess to a certain extent. Yeah. But the whole
And
thing
I'm not
is,
saying
it's kind of like they have
I'm not
men
saying
and
that's
women.
bad. I'm just perception.
Right. Well, here in the United States, we try to make everything equal. Everything's going to be on the same playing field. And yeah. So.
All right. Okay.
Like I said, I can only talk about my experiences in the Islamic world. That's all.
Yeah.
Or what I've seen.
Yeah. That's what we want. All right. Again, tribalism, the idea that people gather together based upon either their faith or their beliefs or their ethnicities or their locale. A prime example of tribalism now would be in sports, the rivalries in sports. You hate the other team in sports. It's us versus them.
Right.
And
so
go ahead.
No, go ahead, because I'm gonna let you finish. Go ahead.
Okay, so the more our push for trying to find common ground with each other, the more that slides backwards, the more chance of tribalism, and thus always being you got to have somebody to hate. And I think we see that a lot. I think you can see that a lot online with certain online communities that some have become almost tribalistic with their behaviors online. And if society breaks down, no matter what the cause, tribalism will become a necessity for survival. Possibly.
Yeah, so the way that this, right? So it's everything is like, group. Everything's grouped off now, and that's going to be your tribe. It's like people that think alike, your like-minded people. That's going to be my tribe. Yeah, I'm black, but they don't think like us. So we're gonna exclude them, and I'm only gonna keep the people that think like myself. You see? So who knows? Just because I don't think like you and we're not like-minded, heck, we might end up fighting. You see?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, sadly, I do see it. And okay, so let's flop back over into Afghanistan. And Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken, is historically always has been a tribalistic nation.
All day. I mean, you have the Pashtuns, you have the Hazaras, you have so many different groups of people. You see, and and all of them speak a different language. All of them speak a different language. Some speak Dari, some speak Pashtun, some speak what language they speak in Iran? I'm having a brain fart right now.
Farsi.
I'm trying to, yeah, Farsi, right? You get that in Afghanistan. When you're in the West, like in Herat, the people over there will speak Farsi. When you're up north, the people speak Dari. When you're down south, the people speak Pashtun. You see?
And
everything is tribal. That's all ethnic
did
and tribal stuff.
Did some tribes sell out other tribes? Did we buy some tribes to fight other tribes? We meaning the United States and our allied of the willing.
I wouldn't say that. Okay, so I wouldn't say that we bought out other tribes, but like you had the government of the Republic of of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, right? You had them, their security forces, right? Then sometimes you had different tribes that were either not for the Taliban and not for the government, but in those different tribes and those villages, there was a warlord. You see, there was a warlord, and sometimes you have to deal with that warlord to get him on your side to get rid of the Taliban to achieve our national security objective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the thing. So like I said, you have people there that were neither for Afghanistan, the government, and not for the Taliban. They were just middle of the road type people. And when you're middle of the road, either you're going to convince them to be on your side, or the Taliban is going to convince them to be on their side. But if the warlords, and that means they got some back, and they got weapons, and they'll go at you either side.
Yeah. I do. All right. One final thing here before we say good night for the evening. Civil War. It's directed by Alex Garland and written by a British writer, portraying a journalist in a near future where 19 states have seceded from the Union. Western forces, including California and Texas, are seen battling it out with groups that include the Florida Alliance. Now, first of all, Geopolitically, this is just, you know, the idea of this is that it would line up that way is going to make some people laugh. You know, what do you mean California and Texas are going to get together and they're going to be fighting Florida? The way things are set up now, that's not how it would work. Anyway, the reason I bring this up, and I want to close out with the tribalism part of it. Let me see if I can get down here and I don't want to play the whole thing because you know, I don't want to get I don't want to get a strike on it. I would hope they wouldn't, because it would seem to be promoting their movie, but I do want to play a few seconds. Now, if you're watching at your convenience and you don't see this part of the trailer, it's because we've had to cut it out.
We're American, okay? Okay. What kind of American are you?
Ah.
You don't know?
That to me, Chris, that to me defines tribalism right there.
Yeah, it sure does, right? So basically, if you're not their type of American, they're going to pop you, right? They're going to get rid of you.
Yeah,
Okay?
sounds like it. Yeah. I mean, that's what I took away from that brief clip. But
yeah, that's exactly what they're saying.
Okay. All right. Would you watch that movie? It's coming out April 2024 in theaters. Are you a movie guy? Are you there? We lost Chris again. Are you there? Okay. We've lost Chris. We will say farewell to Chris. And of course, I'll be talking with him between now and then. He won't be back on until after Christmas. So Merry Christmas to Chris, and to you all as well. Hanukkah's over. And for those that Merry Christmas is offensive, sorry about it. Happy holidays to you. Whatever it is that, you know. But I will say, you know, this is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year. The most wonderful time of the year. But it doesn't feel that way. It hasn't felt that way. And we're going to try to have some holiday spirit here and be on Sunday night. This coming Sunday night for Christmas Eve for a holiday show. And then the following Sunday night for a New Year's Eve extravaganza. I love that word, extravaganza. We'll have a New Year's Eve extravaganza as we did last year. And those that watched it live, you're the only ones that know anything about it, because it was quickly taken down for multiple violations of music copyrights. We're going to try to avoid that this time, but can't guarantee it. So again, thank you all for being here tonight. Unless something major happens, going to take a few days off here for the holidays. As I said, we'll be on Sunday night, and but you never know when we're going to pop on. So please hit the subscribe, hit the notification, and hit the like if you would. It does help. And we will see you very, very soon. Love y'all like chocolate chip cookies. And it's a dark world. Be a light. Thanks for being here.